Hello everybody and welcome to tonight's stream, Retro Tuesday, where we play a game from yesteryear, and I'm very excited to say we are playing Civilization 1 this week. Civilization being the classic strategy series that has been going around for a long time, since 1991 or thereabouts. What a lot of people don't realise is that there was a Super Nintendo port of Civilization 1 made, and that is what we are going to play tonight. You're going to see how this game looked and felt on the Super Nintendo. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I've been playing Civilization for a very long time now, my entire life basically, as far back as I can remember. And while Civilization 2 was the one that really got me hooked into the series, I do appreciate Civilization 1 on its merits. This game was actually published by Koei. Before Koei became Koei Tecmo, Koei published, it was a strategy game specialist, and Koei published this game, I believe, in the West, probably just America. I don't know if it got a European and Australian release at all, which would explain why a lot of people aren't familiar that, or aren't aware that it exists anyway. So we're going to give people a moment or two to jump on, and in the meantime you can watch this lovely little animation sequence that shows you, the backstory to Civilization, really. This game had a console kind of presentation, and yeah, so this is a little animation that explains the backstory to Civilization that plays if you don't touch your controller for a while. But we'll give people a moment or two to log on and say hello, and then we'll get going with the strategy game action. Right, so for people who don't know how Civilization works, I imagine most people would, but anyway, I'll just quickly fill you in. You take control of a civilization at the very start of its history, many thousand years BC, and then you need to take it through the ages. You need to help the civilization discover all the various sciences and make developments that way, improve its military strength, deal with the other nations that are starting up around it, maybe go to war with some, try and make peace with others, do diplomacy, all that stuff, and guide the civilization through the ages, really. That's basically how it works. This is a very simple version of it compared to what you'll get if you get a Civilization 6 or whatever now, but it still has a lot of charm, so yeah. Hey Liam, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. Did you know that there was a Civilization on Super Nintendo? I'm finding that a lot of people actually didn't. So, yeah. So we'll go to Customize World, I guess. See, you've got all these different options. It's let's go with a large landmass. Why not? Let's go with normal temperature. We'll start with age. These are all factors that the world that you're playing is randomly generated at the start of the game. So these are all factors that determine what the world is like. If you choose a wet climate, it's got obviously more water in it, more greenland. Normal climate is just standard temperature. Arid means that there's a lot of desert and it's a little bit harder to survive because you don't have much water to work with, but let's go with that. Let's go with normal. All of that's fine. Right, okay, so yeah, this is a port of the very first Civilization to Super Nintendo. So if you did play the original Civilization, then this is that game. It's just obviously made for console and that and controller and stuff, but otherwise same game. We'll go with, let's go with Warlord difficulty, why not? Let's go with 5 civilizations, about 5. So these are the choices. Again, if you play Civilization 6 now, you have about 40 different civilizations to choose between, so it's all a little bit limited here by comparison, but we'll go with the Japanese because I always do. So, enter a name. We'll go with... Where's KO over there? Rightio. Tokugawa. So the reason that I chose to do this game, I guess, today was because everybody else is playing Crusader Kings 3, which is just released on PC, and I haven't been able to, and I feel very jealous about that. I really want to play Crusader King. I do love my strategy games, but yeah, I just haven't got around to it. I don't have the time to commit to a game that I'm not reviewing, and I didn't get a review code, so I won't be reviewing Crusader Kings 3, unfortunately, but I will buy it at some point to play it in case I get a chance. I like my strategy games to be large and complex and 4x. I enjoy turn-based. I enjoy turn-based strategy games. I also enjoy action strategy games, Command and Conquers and whatever, Age of Empires. But I'm a bigger fan of these grand 4x strategy games, which not just about conflict and not just about building up military bases, but also about doing the diplomacy thing, doing the scientific research, and giving you alternative ways to win than just conquest. And really all of that started with civilization itself. So this is just explaining what you can do with your civilization at the start. Some of the basic skills that you start with, the ability to mine and whatever. Now give it a moment or two. This does take a little while for memory to randomly generate the world that you play on, especially since I picked a large world. Okay, we're just about to start. Right, so at the start of things, there isn't that much you can do. Civilization does start fairly slowly. Hello Diddy Ram, welcome to the stream. I just put a call out to you for Twitter because I figured that you'd be interested in watching this one, as I know you're a fan of strategy games, but you can ignore that I guess now. So, at the start all you have is a single settler. Now back in these days, these figures that you had, the armies and whatever you have, are represented by little squares. And I found that to be very aesthetically pleasing because it does remind you of old war game board games like War and Peace, which was the very famous board game that charted the Napoleonic Wars. And in those games, the pieces were always represented by little cardboard cutout squares. Sorry, not cubes, just little cardboard cutout squares. And Civilization borrowed that aesthetic. So it's very familiar to kind of board game fans from a couple of decades ago. Right, so the settlers can't do much more other than build cities and things. You should play board games. They are making a resurgence because there's been an awful lot of very popular ones, and they've done a very good job of upping the aesthetic value of board games so that they're very pleasant to look at. And yeah, I think COVID probably put a bit of a halt to board game interest, given that it's been hard to get board gaming groups together, but it has been doing it. The whole industry has been enjoying a renaissance of recent years. But let's just build a city. Let's get going. Build a city. There we go. We will call it... They recommend you call it Tokyo, but I am going to do my own thing. And I'm going to call it Edo. That's me being funny. Edo being the name of Tokyo before it was Tokyo. So, once you found the city, all the settlers come along, looking suspiciously like the American Wild West. And they'll settle down the city. Naotora. I actually went to the temple that has Naotori's gravestone in it. It was a very long trip. From memory, which city was it? From memory, it was Hamamatsu City in Japan, and from there you had to get a bus way out to this kind of little tiny village town that was about an hour and a half bus ride out, and it was so far out of the way that buses only came back into the city every hour and a half. So actually, once you're out there, you're kind of stuck there. It wasn't exactly a tourist hotspot, but the temple was very nice, and yeah, I'm a big fan of Naotora. Ah, yes, I know. I remember Pharaoh. Pharaoh would be a good one if we could get a HD remaster of Pharaoh, or a remake, or a new game in the series. There is Praetorians coming, which is another classic strategy game. Praetorians is coming to PS4 this month, for anybody who's interested in that. So that's it. We're building a militia at the moment. We need a militia to get things going. It's going to take us 5 turns anyway. So there's not much else we can do but wait. End of turn. Tick, tick, tick. It'll take 5 turns of this. So as you can see, the Empire started at 4000 BC. So things are really primitive back then. Not much more than sticks and stones for the military units, and not much science to go with. So, but the population of 10,000, that was pretty big for back then. And I should have my militia unit now. One more turn. There we go. So I now have a militia unit. Of course I'm playing Japan. What else? What else would I ever play? You can't play as the Ainu. I did actually ask 2K if they could put the Ainu into Civilization 6, because they do have the Maori and various of the Native American peoples. It would be pretty neat if they could do an Ainu civilization, but I don't think they will somehow. Unfortunately, unit menu. So, this is unfortunately a little bit primitive. You actually have to manually select the direction that you want to move the character. But I'm going to move up this way. Bang. Oh, there's a little house there. Now, one other thing I need to do is perhaps consider changing production. But there's actually not much to do at the moment. I can build a new settler, I can build a militia, or I can build a barracks. So for now I'm going to build another militia, I think. I need to not exist. Now. In fairness to the Japanese government, they did recognise that they exist, they just haven't done anything to try and preserve the culture. Oh, okay, so you've enjoyed them, have you? Of those boss fight book series, I really like the one on Civilization. Got Civilization on my brain. Of the boss fight book series, I really enjoyed Final Fantasy 4, I think it was. Was it 4 or 6? 6, might have been 6. Anyway, there's a Final Fantasy one. It was one of the earlier books in the series, and it's really good. I really enjoyed that one. So if I move my militia over to here, that little hut there is a friendly village, or usually a friendly village, and it'll give me something, whether it's a new unit, some cash, a new scientific discovery, or something similar. There we go. See, I discovered a tribe of skilled mercenaries. And that's a high-level unit for this point of the game. That being that, then, now that I have a powerful unit, I no longer need to worry about building another militia. So let's just change that to barracks. And it'll take 19 turns, but that's a useful building to have, so we'll do that. Well, they're not designed to be to your point about them being a bit superficial, they're not designed to be super in-depth reads. Like, we're not talking about academic quality text here. They're meant to be light, easy, breezy reading, kind of like a long form, you know, feature article on a website or something. A very long form one of those. So I think they do a good job for what they are. They give you some pretty useful insights into how people interact with video games and what they mean to people. Let's move this powerful legion. See, legion. Let's move our legionnaires this way. There should be a deep academic dive into Dead or Alive. I did a deep academic dive into Murray Rose. That was a 4,000 word interview feature, that was. Greatest thing I've ever written. Highly recommend everybody read that. Because Murray Rose is bae. Anyway, I'm still exploring at the moment. It'll take me a while before I run into another civilization. So, as you can see, the interface has improved in Civilizations 6. Since? Like 6? Much easier to play these days, but... I know it's probably hard for younger people, but these kinds of games really captured the imagination for young people when I was young. They really, really did. They were fascinating experiences, full of strategic wonder and historical interest. I actually got really interested in my interest in history in general traces back to Civilization 1 and 2. And I distinctly remember, I was in primary school at the time, really addicted to Civ 2. I'd spend all weekend basically playing it. And I was given an assignment to study, a pretty free open assignment because I was in an advanced English class. Anyway, I had to write a report on something to do with history, and I decided to do this in-depth thing looking at the various wonders of the eras, because the great wonders were a big part of Civ 2. And yeah, doing the research, and that's when I realized that video games could inspire people to learn stuff, and Civ 6 still does it to this day. I still find new things to want to learn about thanks to Civilization. So in that last turn, we got another unit of mercenaries. This time... Oops, he's not moving yet. This time it's a cavalry. It's a horseman. L-Cav. Light cavalry. L-Cav. It's a light cavalry, which means it should move more than once. There we go. Because it's a horsey, it moves fast. Go, little horsies. I've always been a fan of cavalry in Civilization. I always end up with huge armies of horsemen as soon as I can build them. I make the Mongol horde cower in fear. How's my progress in Flowers? I am now about, I want to say, 2 hours in. I did get momentarily distracted because I had to hurry along a review of Quantum Suicide, which released this week. That's a very good visual novel. I highly recommend you check it out. Dizzy. It's an Aussie developed one, no less. But I'm back into Flowers now. I don't have another visual novel to work on in the immediate term, so as you say, it's only about 8 hours long. I should get through it this week, hopefully. On top of that, I don't have any huge RPGs to play. I don't have to play through Pathfinder, which is a 150-hour RPG, or Kingdoms of Amalur, or any of those games. I'm done with those. I have a pretty clean slate in terms of my reviews for the next couple of days. So I'm going to sit back and enjoy Flowers the way it was meant to be. Chill. Not stressed, chill. It's very pretty. It really is such a pretty game. The only thing prettier is Mel Kishida's art. Oh, I got another tribe of skilled mercenaries. So here's the thing with Civilization. It was certainly not as well balanced as later Civ games, and by just wandering around and exploring, you'd end up with this huge army of, of military units. That was pretty cool. There we go. I've met an emissary from Russia. Well, let's not do a stupid thing and attack them via land. Let's not engage them in a land war, because they are Russian. Do I want to receive Putin? Yeah, let's have a chat with Putin. It won't be Putin. It's Stalin. Yes, I forgot about that. So, the choice of the leaders of the various nations in the years since the original civilization has been a little bit more, how shall we say it, a little bit more circumspect. I don't know you would be able to get away with lionizing Stalin as the leader of Russia in a video game anymore. But, there we go. I can hang out with Stalin in Civilization 1. And just for him popping up on the screen and me mentioning his name, this video is now going to get demonetized. You watch. Do I wish to sign a peace treaty with Stalin? Yeah, let's do that. Let's just move on. There we go. I made friendly with Stalin. Stalin is a peaceful man. He is indeed. He doesn't want war with me. We're going to be best buds. Yeah, the character models are pretty good for their time, especially. They're all handsome fellas. Let's just, let's move the other way away. So who is the German leader? I can guarantee you it's not Hitler. They didn't go that far. Even back then, they still knew better. I don't even know if Germany is a choosable faction in this game. In this original civilization. Luckily for 2K games now, but it used to be Firaxis. Or it still was before 2K games acquired Firaxis, but luckily for them, the Russian civilization, the German civilization, various other civilizations, they all had plenty of leaders to choose from of historical importance. You didn't have to stick with Stalin and Hitler if you didn't want to. So they didn't. I'm pretty sure Civ 6 still gives you the ability to... I think one of the great people, one of the great naval people that you can recruit to your side in Civilization 6 is the Japanese naval commander through World War II. And now I'm going to feel really embarrassed because I can't remember his name right now. But I'm pretty sure that he still pops up in the game. Oh, there you go. And I've got another tribe of skilled mercenaries. I'm just collecting them up. It's now three units of horsemen I've got. Or LCAV. Let's see if that's another one. Oh, I got some metal. Aren't I lucky? I got some precious resources. So we are still making progress nice and slowly. And I've got another... I swear I've got so many I've got so many horses that I don't have anything to... I never need to worry about my armed forces again. I'm pretty much set. I'm just going to check my city. My city's grown in size. It's now 2. So if we go into production, I'll have my barrack in 1 turn. So nearly there in terms of producing the buildings, which will be good because I've got lots to... I'm going to build a new settler and make myself a new city then. I've explored a bit now. Ready to start expanding my empire. There was a really fascinating article. It was written around the time that Civilization 6 first released, I believe. And this is just a side note. This has nothing to do with this particular game, but it was a really interesting look into the way that games like Civilization position all of the factions, doesn't matter which part of the world they come from, what part of history, the way they position them all as the same, as effectively expansionist and colonialist in nature. And yeah, it was certainly a really interesting read, because it is true when you play Civilization, one of the later ones where you can play as, for example, the Maori, you're still fairly much locked into the same need to constantly expand your borders and settle elsewhere and grow, whereas a lot of those kind of non-Western nations and people didn't really do that. So I found it really... I'll try and track down the article and then tweet it out when I can find it, because it was a really interesting read and really thought-provoking about the way that people go about developing strategy games, because they are definitely made from typically a kind of Western mindset. Oh, there we go. I finally ran into a bad house. I've been attacked by bandits. Just the one. It does make me think. I like reading articles that... I mean, if I had sat down to really think about it, I probably would have had similar ideas, but I didn't. I never thought to think about it. And yeah, it was just interesting to digest and muse about. That was good journalism, that was. That is how all game journalism should work. So an emissary from the Greek faction have come to speak with me. Hello. What do you got to say? Alexander. Which, that is a historically dubious claim to make. That he... I think he was a slightly different peoples. I mean, if you want to be specific, he was really Macedonia, wasn't he? Shall we sign a peace treaty with him? Yeah, why not? Let's do that as well. We'll make peace with everybody. The diplomacy system in Civilization 1 is quite... Oh, my horsey died. The diplomacy system in Civilization 1 is quite simple. Very simple. Compared to later games. It's to the point of being quite easy to exploit. But it's a fun. Still exploring. I might as well start exploring back the other way now. Oh, there's a house there. Video games, what's the point? It's to the point, I think you'll find, Ditty, the point of video games is to make monies. This is the point of video games. Lots and lots of monies. Speaking of who's going to go and throw down $500 or whatever it is for one of them Xbox things. That was announced today as I record this video. The Xbox... what is it? The Xbox One S. The cheap one. The little one. The one without the optical hard drive, or sorry, the disk drive and stuff. That has been revealed, and what was the price? $500 Australian? $400 Australian? $400 Australian, I think. Anyway, you'll be able to buy that this year. It's an escape from reality, no politics allowed. That too. You can make money when there's no politics involved. It's only when you get political that you can't make money anymore. I'm going to kill that enemy bandit because he attacked my horsey. Not acceptable, Mr. Bandit. Gonna deal with you. Yeah, that's me too. Just Diddy said that he's not going to buy the console for a while. To be honest, I don't see any need to buy either the PlayStation or the Xbox console, not in the initial term. Most of the games, almost all the games that I'm interested in are getting releases on PlayStation 4 anyway. And of the exclusives, there's only one or two that I'm interested in. Both of those games aren't coming out at launch, I don't think. So I don't see any pressing need to get into this new generation of consoles. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people. I do think that the cycle is going to be quite slow because there aren't going to be that many people buying the next generation of consoles for at least 6 months. And that means that developers are still going to support both games in a way that hasn't really been done to the extent that it will be done this time. So, yeah. It's hard to get my enthusiasm up for those consoles right now, unfortunately. Oh, see, that's true. I mean, as a 4K media player, I can certainly see it. And I do think that these consoles will eventually be worthwhile. I certainly think that at some stage, the games are going to start flowing in a big way and everybody will jump on board, including me. But, yeah. I think most of the problems the consoles have had this year has been had to do with COVID anyway. It's not really the console manufacturer's fault. Okay, so this territory that I own here is starting to take some shape. I'm starting to understand the lay of the land as such. Oh, were you a fan of Horizon 1, were you, Diddy? Ha! That bandit attacked me and he failed. That'll teach him. I mean, in terms of what they should do, I do think that they should delay it because, amongst other things, putting aside the commerce of it, I think that now is not the right time to be basically begging people to spend that kind of money on a console. And we all know that fear of missing out is a big part of the marketing cycle for these developers and publishers and, you know, the console manufacturers. So to deliberately go out of the way to try and FOMO people is a little bit cruel in the current climate, and I just thought that I've thought that it would be a nicer gesture if they just held things back. But of course, you know, when you're talking about products as large as the new generation of consoles, there is a lot of commercial pull, which makes that very difficult to do. So I've been attacked again, more bandits. That sucks. Leave me alone. Well, yes, they should release them for free anyway. That would be the smartest thing to do. I will say in Australia, doesn't Telstra have a thing going where they're going to, you can get an Xbox One X or One S with Telstra? Like you get a mobile phone, it's on a plan, you pay a certain amount each month for however long. Thought I read something like that. Maybe I read wrong, but that would be the way to go. Just get a partner to make the thing super cheap on a plan, bundle it in with an internet connection or something, and bang. Suddenly it becomes a little bit more affordable for people who need internet, but perhaps a little bit concerned about spending $500 up front. Yeah, why wouldn't I be surprised that once Cyberpunk does something, then people are suddenly on board with it? I don't know about that game. I don't know. I shouldn't say things, because if I say things and people watch it on playback, they'll yell at me for saying them, but I really don't know about Cyberpunk. I would like my punk games to actually be punk in spirit, and I'm not sure that Cyberpunk's going to do that, but that has nothing to do with the quality of the developer. I really enjoyed The Witcher 3. I just don't know if a developer of that size is the right one to do something punk. Anyway, back to the game. We are expanding nicely here. Not really expanding, we're just exploring, but I've got a sense of the kind of territory I've got to work with now. So once I build that settler, which should be not too long away, let's have a check. Where's our settler? How much longer for my settler? 1 turn. I'll have the settler in 1 turn. I'll be able to go and found a new city then. What I might do is just get my horsemen up, because there's an enemy. Even though we've made peace, there is an enemy just on my doorstep. Need to be aware of that. There we go. I made myself a settler. So building a settler actually makes your city a little bit smaller for a while, because it consumes 1 point of population, which is that number you see on the main map, and you'll see that soon enough. There's nothing else to build here now other than militia. So, but once I move my settler, you'll see what I mean. You need big populations to build things fast, more complex things quicker. The bigger the population, the more you can build. Do you think Civ players are popular with their preferred romantic interests? Probably not, because you've got to commit so much time to civilization, don't you? You don't really get a choice in the matter. It's a commitment. No, but seriously, it's I guess I would think that a lot of Civilization fans, the really hardcore ones, don't play any other game. This is one of those games that you kind of turn into a hobby all by itself and just play it endlessly. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, CD Projekt Red is known for crunch, and crunch is an inherently dystopian thing that that Cyberpunk would be very much opposed to. So it's a little bit hard to imagine that they've done the whole socio-economic criticism that's inherent with Cyberpunk in a genuine way, when the own company is the kind of company that a Cyberpunk game would actually criticize. So, but, you know, got to give it a chance. It might turn out to be good. Who knows? Paradox players are even worse than Civ players. Paradox players are the most hardcore of hardcore. I mean, I put 600 hours into Europa Universalis 4 over the years. It's been quite a few years now, so 600 hours sounds more impressive than it really is. But that's absolutely dwarfed by what most people put into that game. Let's put him on defense. But he's protecting my city now. Not that horses are particularly good at doing that, but I'm not really worried about being invaded right now either. Okay, so the settler continues to inch their way along. I need to decide where I'm going to set up shop then for my next city. Do you think one day games will love you back? Well, I'm certainly hoping so. I'm hoping that the Miku games down the track do that. Give me a nice holographic Miku to enjoy as part of the experience. Speaking of Miku, I'm so pissed off. There's a new Miku rhythm game that has been launched in Japan, and I don't believe you can get it in the West. And I'm really crushed about this because my wife's playing it. I really want to play it. It looks like a lot of fun, but it's not available in English right now. I'm pretty sure it's the Barracks one. The Taiwanese developer behind Voez and Citus and Demo got the license, I believe, to make a Miku game. And I think that's the one that's just been released in Japan, which is free to play, but with rhythm games that's not such a big issue, I don't think. At least it was fine with the Love Live. The Love Live rhythm game was pretty decent despite being free to play. Yeah, Rayark's a really, really talented developer. I'm really glad to hear that they're making a rhythm game with Miku for mobile, because I'm pretty sure it will be excellent. Even if it's not the one that my wife's playing at the moment. What they do come up with will be pretty good. Okay, so my little settler is still inching his way along. They don't move very fast, unfortunately. That's the Greek city there. I believe that will probably be their capital. Up to a population of 3 already, so I'm pretty sure Edo is only population 1, yeah. So my city's growing a bit slower than my rivals, but I do have another city on the way within the next couple of turns. What am I doing? There. So because I made peace with the Greek, I can't move my unit right next to theirs. Why did they not pick up that house? Like I said, the AI in the early Civilization games was a little bit dull. They didn't exactly make smart strategic moves. That's not to say they weren't necessarily difficult, especially since this game, the early civilizations, managing the happiness of your people was an absolute nightmare. On the higher difficulty levels. So I remember especially Civ 2 getting stuck a lot of times because my cities grew to a certain size And at that point, I just couldn't keep the population under control. They just rioted constantly, which made it impossible to grow, and then you'd get swamped by the enemy cities. So those were the days. Dealing with unrest is much easier in later civilization games. Much, much easier. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the aesthetic sensibilities of the Portuguese missionaries in Japan? What a fascinating question. So one of the things I do find really interesting about all of that was the Japanese Jesuses that emerged. So, and Marys. So there was a point in time where, during the Sengoku period, the missionaries were persecuted quite severely and had to leave, and it was outlawed. Being Christian was outlawed in Japan after being tolerated earlier previously. So what happened was there was a whole bunch of underground Christians that emerged, and over time, because once Japan shut down, they remained underground Christians. Over time, they started to adapt the iconography that they used to more represent the Japanese aesthetic. So if you go to Nagasaki and you see some of the leftover artifacts of that era, you can actually see like images of Jesus and Mary which are very Japanese, as opposed to the European image that we are most familiar with, which is just fascinating stuff. Nagasaki in general is a very interesting city because it did have that exposure to the Western world that most of the rest of Japan didn't. So they have different food culture there. Like they have a lot of different architecture. It's a very different kind of look. What was I doing? Oh, I was putting him on defense. There we go. And production. I still can't build anything else, unfortunately. I've already built everything I can, so... Oh wait, I can build another settler. That's what I'll do. I've got my city up to a population of 2. So I'll build a settler. And that chews up time when I haven't got much else to do. I want to just check. Yep, it's fine. Okay. Just checking something for my own sanity. It's been a while since I played this game, so I wasn't quite sure if I'd done something wrong. Where were we at? There we go, we can finally build our second city. Bang. Kyoto? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be much more hardcore Japan fan. Kamakura. It's my favourite place in Japan. Love the city of Kamakura. If you ever find yourself, if we ever actually get to travel overseas again, if COVID ever lifts, and you ever get a chance to go along to Japan, I highly recommend a trip to Kamakura. It's about an hour out from Tokyo, and it is the most lovely little city. It was an ancient capital of Japan before Kyoto was, before Edo, and then later Tokyo was. Kamakura was a capital for a while, and yeah, it's just a really lovely city. It's close to the ocean. It's basically where, I mean, it has a very long literature tradition. A lot of Japan's great authors came out of Kamakura, and yeah, easy day trip down there. Okay, it really annoys me that I can't grab that little hut there, but it's right next to a city that I'm at peace with, so I can't grab it. But luckily another hut just showed up, so I'll grab that one. Hopefully it'll be some kind of treasure. No, Kamakura does not have maid cafes. It's a very different kind of city to the rest of Japan. It's a much more traditional place. It is famous for its curry. Japanese style curry, so there's a lot of restaurants that served a really nice Kamakura style curry there. It does have Japan's beach culture, so when summer comes along, basically everyone heads down to what is Enoshima, but Enoshima is right next to Kamakura, so people just say we're heading down to Kamakura. And yeah, the entire beach culture is basically based around Kamakura in Tokyo, and it's a black sand beach too, so it's a fascinating visual. It looks very different to the Australian beaches, especially. They're not. It's not white and sandy. It's a very different kind of beach. But it also has ancient temples and shrines, and it's just a really nice kind of trip. It's got an excellent shopping street as well, which is for more traditional goods. And it is also very famous. Kamakura is really famous for a cookie. It's a pigeon-shaped cookie. You can go and search it on Google. Kamakura pigeon cookie. Very famous, kind of very simple butter cookie, but absolutely delicious. And as I say that, I really wish I had one. I haven't had a pigeon cookie for at least a year now, and I'm craving one now. Oh, there we go. That's a nice little hut to capture. They've given us some scientific discoveries, which is good. What have we just discovered? We just discovered the secret of the alphabet. So, like I mentioned, in Civilization, you need to guide your Civilization scientific discoveries. We haven't got a chance to start doing that yet in this playthrough, but I just discovered alphabet, which is great. Obviously, as you discover scientific, as you make scientific discoveries, you unlock more complex ones to make down the track, and yeah, you need to make those discoveries at a pretty good rate, because otherwise, your enemies end up getting much better units and advantages over you. You really want to stay on top of the scientific discoveries in this game as much as possible. Neko Cafe or Maid Cafe? I like Neko Cafe, but I'd rather a bunny cafe or even an owl cafe. There's an owl's cafe in Japan, which is pretty neat. But yeah, I don't know, maid cafes, I've never been in one. Mostly because the idea of spending a fortune on a drink or a bit of food just so you can have somebody dressed up in a maid costume cast a little spell on it. It's cute. It's a cute visual, but it doesn't seem to me like the way I would want to spend my money. That being said, if I had half a chance, I'd probably go to one of those hostess clubs just to see what that kind of experience is. Yakuza sold me on those. And in a hostess club, you spend an absolute fortune on a beer just so a pretty woman can sit next to you and talk to you. Will I become a host? No, I will not become a host. That would not be a fun job. Why am I not making a scientific discovery yet? Am I missing something? Thought I was doing it right. Maybe I'm not. Science. Why am I not making scientific discoveries yet? Maybe I'm not investing enough in science. I don't know. Maybe my population's just not big enough yet. I can't remember when you start making those discoveries in civilization. Ah, what the hell? Let's go attack the Greek. Let's start a war. We'll leave the Russians alone. I don't want to mess with Stalin, but let's do something about these Greek upstarts near where we are. Mind you, starting a war with Alexander is probably not the smartest idea either, but it is what it is. I'm going to do it. I am the mighty Tokugawa. Also, I want that house. Since the Greek won't claim it. Right, now how do I deal with that? How do I deal? I can't remember how to declare war. Maybe option? Nope. Nope. Let's just see what we can do. Well, for some reason I was able to move within a square anyway, so who knows, maybe I can attack. Maybe the peace deal is over. Let's give it a go. Ah, there we go. Tear up the treaty. Let's do it. Oops, I lost. I lost that battle, I did. So later civilization games give the units health. But these earlier civilization games, they didn't. Basically, it was just a single roll of the dice, with the more powerful units having a much higher chance, obviously, of surviving and winning the battle. But, yeah, if you lost the battle, it was an immediate loss of that unit, so that is slightly different to how these games work now. Alright, let's try that again. Well, let's try that again. Ah, there we go. I finally have the option to make a discovery. Let's go with... Let's go with burial, because if we don't discover burial, that's going to be a problem. The Spearman versus Tank. I remember, because I played so much of the original Civilization... Oh, well, not the original. Since I played so much of Civilization 2 in particular, I remember having all kinds of scenarios pop up. One was that I had... like a low-level spearman or a warrior or something actually beat a... actually managed to beat a tank. There was another unit in Civilization 2 which was particularly useful. So if you changed your government to fundamentalism as the government, so religious fundamentalism, you basically had access to a really weak unit which was called the Fundamentalist. And the Fundamentalist was... or was it a fanatic? No, I think it was a... yeah, maybe a fanatic. Anyway, you had really cheap access to unlimited numbers of those. So you would just build thousands of them. And then you would capture your opponent's cities by attacking them in the thousands. And it was pretty funny. Because you just have these huge hordes of religious fanatics crashing down on your opponent's cities. It was a very powerful, it was a very overpowered government style fundamentalism back in Civilization 2. They've done a lot of work in the years since, and the iterations since, to make the governments much more balanced. But those were the good old days. Oh, come on, I can't actually move my unit there. Give me a break. I can't move my unit next to my own city because that idiot's there, fortified against it. How rude. Anyway, I've got a new settler. So we'll start to move him across. Oh, that there is a chariot. The Greek army has a chariot. And I beat it. My legionnaires. Ah! I just lost the legion. I lost a legion to a silly archer. I build a road. So settlers can do other things too, not just build cities. They can actually construct infrastructure around... Oh. I lost another dude. They can construct infrastructure around the cities, including roads and things, which are beneficial. So I'm going to do that with that settler for a while now. And as you can see, there's a little road there poking out from the city. I have an excess of warriors now, but I don't have anything else that I can really build, so for now I'm just going to have to deal with having too many warriors running around. Ah, I lost him again. Fortified units are pretty difficult to deal with, unfortunately, so it can be a pain. Oops, wrong way. let's try again. Attack! Yay! Attack! Yay! 2 in go and go. So every time you beat the enemy back, every time you beat one of the enemy units, you also take one population off. I guess it's representing the fact that you're pillaging the city or something. Who knows? But yeah, the city can decline in population pretty quickly. That doesn't happen with later games because they realize that that was pretty bad. Hello! I've captured the city! The army of Japan has occupied Athens. And then for some reason in this little cutscene my guys have guns. But I'm marching into the city, I ams. It's weird, they've got guns, but they've got like Greek-style armor on, which is an odd mix. And I get to take one of the science discoveries that the Greeks have made. Let's go with the wheel so we can have chariots. It allows us to have chariot, and then opens up engineering and various other abilities down the track. And as you can see, I can now build a chariot, so let's do that. And that little face there that you saw, that means the population is deeply unhappy with me. And I have to bring them into the fold soon, otherwise they'll start to riot and stuff. But anyway, that is a good place to stop this stream tonight. So you saw the basics of how the original Civilization worked. If you have played Civilization 3, or Civilization 3, later civilizations, including 5 or 6, then it'll be oddly familiar. Like a lot of Civilization hasn't changed over the years. They've just refined it. They've done what they've needed to balance it out, so it's a little bit more, I guess, authentic to strategic decisions that you might want to make. But it's a good game. Like, Civilization has always been a really good game at core. So thank you very much to everybody for tuning in. Thanks Diddy and Liam for chatting with me as I've been playing. I hope this has been interesting enough. Trip down memory lane with an older game. But yeah, otherwise, have a great week, everybody. We will be back later on the week with another stream on Friday evenings, as we always do. We've also got some other video contents planned for later in the week. But enjoy the games that you're playing. Hope you're playing some really good ones, and we'll see you later. Thanks as always for tuning in.